Hi everybody. Hope everybody is healthy. Hope everybody is safe. These are crazy times that we're living in, and constantly changing from one minute to the next. But as long as I'm stuck inside the house, and as long as I'm limited in terms of the other job and what I can be doing, certainly I have the opportunity to be able to do coaching online and taking advantage of online meetings and things, but it does leave me some time to paint and to play. So I have been posting a couple of quick little teasers. I know that there was a new article that I listed onto the website. So some painting basics I'm trying to give you on articles. So this one is on paint and a bit of a comparison, what you would kind of think in terms of some of the advantages and disadvantages of chalk paint, clay paint, latex paint, oil paint, I mean, those kinds of basics. I get asked that a lot, so nice for you to have a reference now. I had time, so you've got that on the website, queenbeecreations1.com. But I've also been posting on the Facebook page, Queen Bee Creations, obviously. That's Cindy Daychuk from Queen Bee. But I've been posting a couple of teasers. So I have some new videos coming up once I kind of figure out how to merge some of the things I've been doing behind the scenes and put them together in kind of a video format. So I will have some other things coming for you. But in the meantime, wanted to get started on this. I had posted it in the Facebook page and gotten a lot of your impressions about what the heck to do with this and what to paint it. You'll see over here, it had a little bit of repair. There was a crack there. The crack did not go all the way through into the drawer, so it didn't have any impact on the functionality of the piece, but I did want to fill it so it wasn't something that was visible once it was done, but it does mean obviously then these get painted. We're not going to be leaving them. And I really wasn't sure about colors. I was kind of thinking of, in my head, the last piece that we had done together that you can kind of see peeking out right back there, that cedar lined big cabinet. One of the colors that I had used is a brand new one from DIY called Cherry Picked, which is kind of this deep cherry, plummy, eggplanty kind of color, and I was sort of digging it. I was really enjoying how it looked, and I get that you only see hints of it in that piece, but I was thinking maybe this is the opportunity to let it show up a little bit more. And so I think that the perfect foil for that as we get started is to pair it off with Petticoat Pink, which is a soft, lovely pink color. Gloria, hi, thanks for joining me. I hope that things are okay up where you are in the Halliburton area, so hopefully everything's good for you guys up there. But we're going to get started putting the base coat on. Now, I'm using for this probably predominantly DIY paint, which is a clay-based paint. It does not need to have a primer coat. It will go on and stick to just about everything. Doesn't mean I don't use a primer with it, but this piece is really in pretty good shape. I'm not really anticipating a lot of bleed through, so I don't think it's going to be necessary. Plus, I'm going to be using a lot of different colors and blending a lot of colors, so probably not going to experience too many issues. We'll see how that goes. Dawn, hi, thanks for joining in. So the job today is to simply get our base coat on. But I do like to get an idea of blending some of the colors together as we go. It gives me an idea of kind of roughly how it's going to look in a piece in the later stages. I do want to get something that further paint layers will stick onto. And I'm using my Paint Pixie brushes here. So these are kind of nice in the hand because they're nice and short. I don't have to deal with this great big long handle because you want to hold the brush nice and low. but as well is going to give me fairly fast coverage because this piece is predominantly fairly flat as well. I'm not having to go around a lot of molding, certainly not all the intricacies of that last cabinet that we did together where we had all those raised molding panels and things. So I don't have all that detail work, which will allow me to at least kind of paint these base coats up fairly fast. You'll see that I leave the drawers in, and I know that painting 101 usually is take the drawers out. I will fix up all the edges of the drawers after we're done. Hey Kathy, thanks for joining. Susan, whoa, Jill, nice to see you, honey. So I will fix up all those drawer edges, but I want to leave the drawers in so that as I'm blending, I can get that continuity of the blend happening. If they were out, sometimes it ends up being very piecemeal. As well, this piece is nice and flat. I don't have the drawers overlapping and having to worry about the edging underneath. So it gives me a lot more flexibility to be able to do this. Now, one of the things I debate before I start, and you're going to see these cabinets need to have their latch fixed, so I will get on that. We'll get on that later. The drawers actually needed to have the bottoms replaced as well. So we did do that and took care of going and getting new wood cut and inserted into those. Mostly because one of them had felt glued in and it was old, it was ratty, and it was glued in there. You know, sometimes I'm able to get a lot of it out and the wood is good underneath. So I will take the time to struggle with it a little. This was so not worth it. So we replaced it. The other one was not in good shape. It was cracked. So we just replaced both of them. So there's two nice clean upper drawers. The bottom one is in pretty decent shape. So I was able to leave it. But that's some of the behind the scenes prep that takes place. Obviously the piece has been completely cleaned before we start. So washing it down with some grease cutter. It really wasn't in bad shape, so I wasn't getting the need for any major chemical cleaners or anything, but I did use the ever-ready Dawn detergent, right, to be able to cut through some of it. Vinegar and water works well. I mean, there's a number of products you can use on the marketplace, but whenever I can use something that is not particularly harsh, that's always my preference. If it needs more than that, then certainly I'll go back and get something that's a little bit more heavy duty. But if it doesn't, I'm good with that. So, got a rough little coat on there. But what I want to start to do, because those of you that know, DIY paint, this clay-based paint, really blends beautifully. So this is where we start to get into adding on a little bit of that cherry picked, that plum color on this. Close those drawers a little bit. And again, just part of the base color. Now, you guys, if you've seen some of my pieces in the past will know it's not going to only be these two colors. It's just not in me to just do the two colors. Somebody, bless their hearts, on the Facebook page suggested, oh, this piece would be awesome painted white. And I'm not saying it wouldn't. A lot of pieces look great painted white. It's just not in me to paint a lot of pieces white. Mostly because painting anything a solid color, whether it's white, whether it's gray, whether it's a navy, whether it's whatever, once you paint a lot of pieces, it starts to get a little bit boring, right? You know, if all you're doing is painting them one solid color, it just gets a little bit old really fast. You know, you get tired of that. It's kind of not as much fun. And part of what I enjoy is some of the color theory behind this. You know, that getting to play with some of the mix of colors, be able to see where they take you, what happens with them. So even adding these colors in here now, it's kind of an opportunity for me to see how this cherry picked and this petticoat pink are going to kind of play together. And then we'll see after they go on what other colors look like they're going to play well with it. What else from a look perspective looks like it's going to kind of take the piece in a positive direction. So I'm not doing major blending right now, but I was just getting rid of a little bit of the harsh lines. And you'll see I shifted brushes. So I do have my pink brush, I have my cherry picked brush, and I have a brush that I'm just using for blending. What paintbrush are you using? Is it a sponge brush? No, these brushes, these flat ones, are Paint Pixie, and they're just a normal bristle brush, but they're just a nice, if you see it gripping in the hands, so that you can stay nice and low. This other bigger brush is an Annie Sloan chalk paint brush, but you will see that I'm holding it nice and low typically. You know, there's times maybe when you really want to use a light touch, but for the most part, you're going to be holding most of the brushes fairly low. And so these ones I love for being able to do that and to be able to get a lot of great coverage. But, you know, partly as I'm looking at this, you know, already you're doing the two colors, but you're also creating a third. And that's where this clay-based paint, this DIY paint, is awesome, because it will allow you to blend right on the piece. And when I go next live, to be able to add...
Thanks.
Michelle, you're welcome. So when I go to add more color onto this, I'm not going to want to have that color just sitting on top of this. I'm going to want it to be able to blend with those colors as well. So one of the cool things about the clay-based paint is that with some water in the spray bottle, I'm able to reactivate the paint. So when I go to add more color in later, I can lightly mist. I don't want this to be a really heavy spray. I'm not looking at dousing it, but I can mist the piece, and that allows me then to be able to reactivate these, and I can add more colors and blend them slightly.
Linda also says thanks.
Oh, okay. Linda, you're welcome. I'm not sure if that means you had the same question as Jill did, and that answered it for you, but perfect. So these are a little bit of different colors for me, which kind of means that they might be different colors for a prospective buyer. But, you know, that's part of the difference too. I know that if I painted it white or I painted it gray, I know I would likely have a lot of potential buyers for it. It's just a nice, simple buffet. If you didn't see the picture on the website earlier, lying in behind is the big mirror piece up above. So a nice square, clean, rectangular mirror piece that goes up above that I'll paint separate because I want the top to be nice and smooth.
Linda says thanks for doing this live.
Oh, Linda, you're welcome. Kind of nice to at least have something to do if you're stuck in the house, right? So it's good for me because I get to be painting, gives you guys something to look at. I know I'll probably be spending my evening going back and hitting up YouTube for a lot of painting demos and things too. I'm better with that than looking at whatever's on Netflix. So this suits me a little bit better than looking at something artistic. But you know what? As long as we're stuck in the house and we're kind of looking for things to do, why not do something artistic? Why not do something creative, right? I know that in my office upstairs, I have a number of projects on the go, so it's never a shortage of ideas for me. It's usually a shortage of time. So if nothing else, and leaving purple fingerprints all over, it kind of gives me the chance to do a few creative things. But I do have some ideas in terms of maybe some additional colors I might add in. But I have to say,
Teresa said that's going to be gorgeous.
Teresa, now I feel pressure. It's like, don't screw it up. It's got potential. Don't take it away. So you'll have to chime in on where we go next, or what you see as maybe some of the next colors to go in there. But I am, quite honestly, I mean, it's easy for me to do blues, to tell you the truth, because that's probably my favorite, is working all the different shades of blues in, and that's probably the easiest fit for me, and they tend to sell well for me too. I'm not in my head 100% sure what the market's going to be for something that's in the pink and purple tones, and you know, it's got to fit with somebody's vision for their homes as well.
Says, what are you spraying on the unit? And Teresa says, I think a gray.
Okay, gray coming next. So Jill, this is just water, just plain water. But this is an air mister, so can you see how this is kind of like if it was super hot outside, it's one of those misters that just gives you this light little misting. So it's not one of those heavy spray Windex kind of bottles. You're just getting a light little coat of water on. It helps the brush glide over the paint. It allows the blending to happen a little bit more, so some of that feathering to take place. So I will say this in terms of colors. I do have, sitting upstairs in my office, a couple of greens pulled, like a mossy green, which in this line is like a farmhouse green, which I love, which I adore. I was thinking possibly of using a little bit of it. I do have down here, because I thought, oh, I may get to that. I may be using some of that. So don't get scared. Summer Crush, which I think that you can see a little bit of it hanging off the side, which is kind of a coral color. Oh, sorry, this is Cowgirl Coral. So it's a kind of a corally orange kind of color. I do have some Sunshine Yellow, which is a Sunshine Yellow. And in case I needed to tone it down a little bit, I had kind of this grayish, which is called Faded Burlap, and then some of the greens. So I was deliberately not bringing any blues down so that I didn't get carried away and feel compelled to add them in, because we know that I would want to. But I definitely wanted to start with these two colors, and even when we go to add some of the others in on top, we'll be bringing some of these back in. I would want them to still maintain some prominence on the piece. And as much as I reluctantly bought this cherry pick to begin with, because I felt compelled, because it was a new color that came out, and I just have to have all the things.
Teresa says, oh, that would be pretty too, the mossy green.
The mossy green with it. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning in that direction with it. So I'm thinking, we'll see how this kind of comes together, but I am thinking maybe I might not go those brights, right, with the coral and the yellow. And I may kind of take it into strengthening these colors a little bit, and maybe adding in a little bit of that mossy green here and there. Kind of see. But I gotta tell you, I'm kind of really starting to fall in love with this cherry picked color. It's kind of that, it's not like an eggplant per se. It is more of that deep, rich, kind of purpley, blacky, plummy color of that really ripe Bing cherry, which at this stage in terms of bleakness and dreariness, because spring hasn't quite kicked in here yet, just is such, it's not a traditional summer color, but it really has some of those summer memories, right? Going cherry picking. And my grandfather used to have their whole backyard, because they're of Ukrainian descent, so their whole backyard was a garden, and they had this big cherry tree. And my grandfather, you know, he didn't say much. He was like this little squat Ukrainian man, Tito, and he was wicked at cherry pit fights, right? That you could be 20 yards away and that man could get you with that cherry pit, and just squeezing it between his fingers, right? And he could just, oh my goodness, he was just awesome at that. And for this man that didn't speak a lot of English necessarily, and didn't really talk a lot to us kids and stuff, I mean, it was just, it's one of the best memories that I have of him, right? Of him playing with all of us kids. I mean, he loved us dearly, there's no question, but it's a cool memory. And so whenever I see cherries, I always end up thinking of him. So right now, this piece, and with the look it's got going, keeps reminding me of him for sure. So what are you guys thinking so far of this color combination? I'm kind of liking this. What I've got. Yeah, so with this, you know, now we're just kind of in the sit and let it blend a little bit, but I think I might add, this paint is lovely because it kind of dries fairly quickly, so you're able to kind of get in there and do a little bit more with it than you might some others. And I don't want to lose that pink entirely. But this has got to be one of my favorite things to do with paint, is to do some color blending, and in particular on the piece. And I will say, it's not a difficult thing to do, but it does require that you have a bit of an idea of how the paints are going to look together. Some, as much as technically they blend well, they don't necessarily look great together. There's going to be certain colors that work better than others, but it's also you don't want to necessarily overwork the paint. If you have too many colors merging and you overwork it without limiting the amount of paint on your brush, perhaps, or the amount of water, you can get kind of this muddy mess very quickly, in which case just smooth it out, let it dry, and then start going over it with some colors, right? Don't use a lot of water on it to reactivate all that muddiness, and you can go over it. So don't ever despair. If you are experimenting, if you are playing, and I'm experimenting and I'm playing with this right now. I have no clue. I have never used these colors together. Even as I'm saying, well, I think that this is what I'll do. I'm not messing with you. I'm just figuring it out as we go. So I really am just playing with it with you, and we're kind of in this together. And I don't have an idea how it will work out. I don't have another piece where I've done this and I'm just trying to replicate it for you. But that's also real. That's what this is about. And that's what you would be doing if you're trying this as well at home. You're going to be looking at it, and you might even start out by trying to replicate whatever it is I end up doing. Let's say it turns out really cool. You may be looking at it thinking, okay, great, then I want to do that same look. But when you do it on whatever piece you have, maybe it just doesn't quite hit the mark. So you start looking at, okay, then what would be a different color that I could add in there that's going to fit the shape of the piece or the feel of the piece. So sometimes you start out with an idea of something, And then you have to deviate, because whatever idea you had in your head just doesn't translate out onto the piece itself, right? So for me right now, you know, if I just left these two colors and I maybe added a little bit more purple in there and I started blending them together, I still don't think that this would do it for me. It looks a little too patchy, right? It's still a little bit too purple and pink and a little bit too patchy. So we are looking at wanting, with the next coat, and this one's going to have to dry, so this is going to be it for the day. I will be turning it around and doing exactly the same thing on the other sides. I have to tape off the mirror and get that happening. But tomorrow when we come back, we'll start adding in more colors. So I will bring the mossy green down and y'all can vote on that, but I'm thinking we need to do some of it. So we'll be adding in a little bit more of the plum, I think, and making a little bit more of the cherry picked, a little bit heavier with that color. I think that there's more pink on here than I ultimately want down the road, but I want to have enough of it that I get a little bit more of that blending happening, right? That I get a little bit more of that intermediary blend of the pink and the cherry picked happening. And then we'll start adding in some of the other colors. So tomorrow will be a little bit more fun because we'll bring in some more of those, but we'll see where it goes. Feel free to chime in on what you want to see happening and colors that I should bring down in the just in case category. But I think that this is a good piece for us to play a little bit because we've got a lot of flat surfaces to do some blending. So we'll see how that goes, and I may have to bring down a couple of other tools because maybe we got to play with some of those. So thanks for joining in today. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay healthy. Do something creative. Have a little bit of fun. There's nothing that says that we can't have some fun while we're stuck at home. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.